if we delay Nova till after Secret Wars, like make Nova, say, a mutant saga friend or something, like he's introduced when we meet New Mutants, would, starting with the destruction of Xandar, still matter at that point?
I hadn't thought of it that way. If you do it after Secret Wars, you have now written out the perfect opening for the character.
Yeah. Welcome back to the Breakroom. Marvel seemingly has a lot of plans for next year, but what are some of the biggest questions that they must answer? Will Nova begin next year? Is that part of the solution to Marvel's way to the future? I'm Erik Voss. Joining me today is a special guest I'm so excited to have on the Breakroom. Welcome, everyone. Brandon Davis.
Oh, Breakroom, thank you so much. Dude, I mean, if there was ever an episode that I might fit into.
I know, what a week.
It's the Nova one. No, come on.
We had been talking, and then suddenly this, Nova news. It might be news, it might be not news.
Yeah.
We should talk about that as well. But before we get into some of these questions, Brandon, I want to ask, how are you feeling about Agatha All Along so far?
It's good.
Yes.
I like it. Is it my favorite Disney Plus show? No. If you say that, people are like, he hates it.
Right, I know. You
so
have to
it's
pick a lane.
It's fine. I'm enjoying it. I saw the first 4, so I've seen the episode that's coming out that isn't out yet. Only 3 are out right now.
4 are out.
Oh,
We've
4
had
came
3
out
weeks
last night.
Of it. Yeah,
that's
4.
right.
Have you seen the most recent episode?
I saw 4.
Okay.
Yeah, so I am confusing it with Penguin. I, for some reason, was like, oh, it's Sunday.
Yeah.
I forget what day. I don't have a job now, so I just don't even know what day of the week it is.
It's easy to lose track of the time.
Every
day. The weekend, yes.
But no, I saw the first 4. I haven't watched it on Disney Plus. I watched it when I got the screeners.
Okay.
And I actually haven't talked about. I said I was going to talk about this on my channel, and still haven't made a video about it. 3 and 4 were both fun episodes individually, but they kind of put a fear in me that it's going to lose me a bit because it's going to be trial.
Yeah.
And then I fear it might get redundant. As fun as it is, I am a little bit afraid of that formula losing me a bit because it's going to build to the end of the show, which the Marvel Disney Plus shows don't always have the strongest endings.
Yeah, most of the time they have not stuck the landing.
So if the journey to that landing, which is rarely stuck, and with the exceptions being like Loki season 2 and a couple along the way, it has to be superb, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's fun. Catherine Hahn's great. Aubrey Plaza's phenomenal. The cast, the Coven all together, really fun. I just am a little bit afraid of the redundancy that could come with trial week after week.
I feel you. The good news is, I think for anyone else who might be feeling that way, we might be halfway through the trials. If they're only going to be earth, wind, water, and air, we've had a fire and a water one, so now it would just be earth and air, and then maybe if they squeeze in a side adventure with the teens trial that's not related to one of those 4 elements. There's more phases in the moon than just 4, though, so I don't know.
Yeah, I've heard from multiple people that episode 5 is really fantastic.
Cool.
I haven't seen it, but I've been really assured by people who would know that episode 5 is really, really good. So I don't know why. I was like, don't tell me more. But I'm like, okay, so hopefully that's true. And I have no reason to believe it won't be.
Yeah, we're all kind of collectively in the blind right now, because some of us did get access to the first 4 episodes and kind of knew what would be coming, but now no one knows.
Yeah.
Other than the people who worked on it, no one knows what's happening in episode 5, and we're all kind of curious because often Disney and these other studios will give screeners to press and to media personnel, and they'll cut it off right before the crazy thing happens because they don't want the spoiler out there. I'm surprised they let Mephisto get mentioned in these opening few episodes.
And it was just so unceremonious too.
It was just such fast. But for me, Brandon, it was ceremonious. I think I levitated a bit for a second when I heard it.
I felt the earth start to shake a little bit when you watched it. It was like the end of BVS when the dirt lifted off of the Clark Kent's coffin. I was like, that's how Eric's whole real estate is going right now.
You just heard a shout. I mean, I was at the El Capitan when they mentioned that, and you heard a shout in the theater, and I think that was me. I went, I did that, and I grabbed Jess, and she's like, let go of me. And I'm like, but this is a moment. We need to honor it.
So I want to ask you, because you have become the Mephisto guy.
I shouldn't be the Mephisto.
But we were
all thinking the Mephisto thing was going to happen.
Yeah, but it's fun that you are the Mephisto guy. It's become associated with you and your name when people think of Mephisto online. Ever since WandaVision, we think of you. Hey man, we associate you with the devil. Take it or leave it.
Yeah, I'll take it. I'll take it and run with it. Because I think what happened was, a lot of us respected it because the clues were there, and then what happened was Agatha All Along happened at the end of episode 7 of WandaVision, and everyone's like, oh, okay, she's the villain. And I'm like, no. There's someone else.
Yeah.
And I kept riding that train through the end of episode 8, and I think I ended my episode 8 breakdown being like, you know what? I'm gonna ride this train off the cliff. This is the Back to the Future Part 3 train, and it goes off the edge as like time no longer has a track there for them to go over, and it just collides with the ground and explodes, and that's what happened to me.
Well, and that's why you're the problem, because you set the expectations for all of us. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I think you're right, though. No. I think I did break certain things.
Here, no. I'll say this: your theories are sometimes better than what we end up getting, because they come on, I think there's no way that people who work on these shows, they don't watch, whether it's you or just anybody. I remember like Jeff Jensen writing Lost coverage and stuff like that, and then ABC was like, yeah. So I think that we start theorizing and we fall in love with the theories, and then sometimes the shows live up to it, and sometimes it goes in a different direction, which could feel like a disappointment. Or maybe if we didn't have the theory, we would be satisfied.
Yeah.
But I will say WandaVision was the first Disney Plus show from Marvel, and it was the start of the trend of like betraying us. Not because of Mephisto though. Like the Mephisto thing's one thing, but the Evan Peters of it all.
The Evan Peters was the real kind of like they made a mistake over.
And the press tour too.
The press tour
where they were hyping. I get to act with the most, and we were all like, "Is Mark Hamill in this show?"
You're right.
Like, you know. So it's like I think they learned from it though a bit, and now hopefully with Agatha, the mysteries like Teen's identity. We all assume it's Billy. If it's not, it's probably less exciting. But if it is, it's like we all knew.
Yeah, it needs to be Billy. If it's something else, then the whole like mystery crafting of putting the sigil in the trailer, the marketing was a mistake in that scenario. It's too early to say. I just think like they have gotten better with the expectation management, but it's really in the trailers where you don't have to show us as much as you do in the trailers, and if you do, there has to be like a well thought out story driven agenda to it.
I agree. And all that said, I'm enjoying Agatha.
Yeah, I am too.
It's probably somewhere in the middle right now of my Disney Plus show rankings, and we'll see how it lands.
Yeah.
But if episode 5 is as good as like some of the people have been hyping it to be, cool.
I agree. All right.
Yeah, one Agatha question really quick from Savvy389, regular Breakroom chatter, asking, what do you think the trials for Agatha and Real will look like? If they get if they get one-on-one trials at all,
I'm just basing this off of trailer footage. There are some, as of yet, not in the show shots where it's like Rio and Agatha confronting each other in some green skied location, and it seems like it's in the backyard of Agatha's house in Westview, because it looks like there's some like playground equipment or something like that, or so I wonder if it's going to have to do something with the house that she lived in Westview.
I think it has to do with the kids. I think it has to do with Agatha's son. I think it's going to have to do with something about like caring about people, like vulnerability, because it seems like the biggest fear has been the trial basically, and it seems like Agatha's biggest fear is vulnerability. She refuses to connect with anybody, probably because she let her son go, or whatever version of that we're going to see. I think we'll learn a lot about Agatha's past in her trial, and it'll have to do with her family.
Yeah, I wonder if like we'll revisit all the people who Agatha either sucked the power out of or let die as a result of her actions, and she'll have to take their place and kind of like a mad dash through her own history and suffer the way they suffered.
Yeah, it probably has to do with the guilt she probably carries.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I think Agatha's kind of a dick. Right? Yeah. She's very rude.
She's a stinker.
When she drops the I'm recruiting you, I need you act, like when she walked out of her house and first like woke up as Agatha and she was talking to a neighbor, the guy, I forget his name.
Herb.
Yeah, it was Herb in WandaVision. What I forget his.
I think Tom or John.
John, but when she was talking to him, she was so rude. And it's like I think that she has that rude front because she just won't let anybody come. Like it's like it's like a porcupine. It's like a defense mechanism. So we'll see why she's like that. I think maybe she carries some guilt over the way. Maybe she doesn't. Maybe she just is a villain.
Yeah. But, do you want her to end the show as a villain, or do you want her in kind of a Loki God of Mischief redeemed status?
I think that's the more complex these characters are. Like Thanos and Loki. Thanos is an outright villain, but you understand him. Loki does both. He can do good things, he can do bad things, and you understand all the while. That's my biggest thing. I just want her motives to make sense. So I would like to see anti-hero because I think that's more complex, or maybe not anti-hero, just villain, but with shades of like, but I get it. Like I wouldn't do that myself, but I understand why she acts the way she does.
Yeah.
Because this is a good character that they're developing. There's no way she's done after this. I think she'll show up in a movie or something, and all the people who watch Disney Plus shows will be like, reward.
Yeah. Yeah. I hope that she still retains most of her villainy, because I think that's what's at least fun about the character. But we'll see.
Yeah, I feel like it's gonna the end is gonna come with that moment of like, you can either redeem yourself, Agatha, or you can make a choice to be selfish and get what you need. And I think, I don't know which way is she gonna go. I think that's probably how it's gonna culminate. Like, do you want your son or do you want power? Do you want to help teen or do you want your thing at the end of the Witch's Road? It would be interesting if she chooses the bad thing.
Yeah.
I think that's a more interesting finish.
I want her to be selfish overall, but I hope she makes like one like choice to save Teen or to let him evolve into his true form of Wiccan, but otherwise she's still the villain of it and fighting him. Like, I want Teen to be the hero of the show ultimately. It's like it's a Wiccan origin story is what I want.
Do you think Wanda is in the show at all?
I don't think she is.
No.
I don't think, because I think we would have heard it from casting call sheets, or someone would have talked at this point. If they would have figured out Elizabeth Olsen's travel schedule to Atlanta. Like, it would have come out.
But you don't think that body at the beginning is going to turn out to be like a Wanda?
I think it's as close as we're going to get. Like, maybe they turn it over and it's like, it could be Elizabeth Olsen's face on it, but I don't think she was on a call sheet at any point.
Gosh. Yeah, it would be interesting if they follow up Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and reveal Wanda's fate at the end of a show that is going to have less viewership than most of the other Marvel stuff.
Right.
Because I think the Disney Plus numbers are probably going up and down.
Yeah.
But this is not going to have as many eyeballs as a movie.
Right.
Or it's just inevitable.
9.3 or 9.8 million viewers for the first two episodes,
good.
which is
it's global,
good.
right?
Yeah, it's just on the platform, and that's not as high as like Loki season 2 or Ahsoka, but higher than Echo. But I think it's still considered a success for what Disney's looking for right
And
now.
this was a smaller budget. This cost less to make than I think every other Marvel show.
Right.
So
that's like an important detail for a lot of folks.
Right.
It's like the budget of these things. Which I just find endlessly interesting that now we care what the budgets of these things are.
Yeah, I mean, it's people just kind of like people pick a team and
Right.
they like to argue as if they're on the team. And I get, like, you're a fan, you champion your thing, but when people start arguing, like, I see the Penguin versus Agatha arguments, and people like argue as if they're like personally, literally financially invested in one or the other. It's like, but we could just enjoy both and let people enjoy one or the other.
I think with the crazy streaming subscription service costs, I think people feel like, but whatever. If you buy anything Disney, or if your kid is demanding that you take them to a Disney park, you kind of wonder, where's my money going? If they could save some of my money and make a cheaper show that I feel a little bit better about paying $140 for a park entry fee, right, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
This actually leads us to an upcoming Disney Plus series, we think.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to have to talk a lot about how they could actually pull this off with the budget for these shows. Nova. And I'm so glad you're here to talk Nova, Brandon, because this has been your little engine that could. You have been asking for a Nova series for so long. So I want to get your thoughts on it. Let's just catch everyone up. There was a production listing from the FTIA, we think, stating that Zolo Maridueña, that you'll know from Blue Beetle, was so good in that film. And actor Tanner Gilman had been cast. And Tanner Gilman, I don't think has been in much. He was part of the Studio C sketch organization from, I think, at BYU. They have like a sketch show that they produce themselves called Studio C. Really like well produced, pretty funny. I think he's from that. But also, it sounds like this listing has Glenn Close coming back as Irani Rael of Nova Prime, and John C. Reilly coming back as Roman Day. And then the writer is someone who's worked on Moon Knight, on Ms. Marvel. It lists a production shoot time as the end of January 2025. But when this was shared, because I shared it and I was like, big if true kind of thing. It came from Marvel Update 3us updates, which is one of these like aggregator accounts on X, Twitter, who just like, you know, some of the stuff you got to take with a grain of salt. You never really know. But there was a community note that's been added, and it referenced your article or your interview. Yeah, so there's a community note on it that says, according to comicbook.com, that they say a Nova series is still at least 3 years away. And you click on it, and it was your interview with Kevin Feige, where he said that a Nova series would still be 3 years away. So I want to ask you, based off of your interview with Kevin Feige, do you think this is legit? Okay.
I don't think this. I think Nova. I definitely, I know Nova is like being tossed around at Marvel Studios and specifically Marvel Television. But Feige did say it'll be 3 to 5 years. like I said, because I was grilling him like that Deadpool and Wolverine interview, like I was just rapid firing, and we were just going, like I wasn't even using note cards. It was just like, let's just talk, let's just, whatever's interesting is what we're gonna get. And he was very candid in that interview, and I really appreciated that. But he was just like, I said, when do you think we'll see? And he said 3 to 5 years. Like he had, like, as if to say, like, it's gonna be a while.
Right.
And I take that to mean, like, yes, they've been talking about Nova behind the scenes forever. Brad Winderbaum said the same thing at Agatha. He said he gave me a bit more information. He said it's going to be an ensemble. He's taking stuff from Star Trek and Battlestar and stuff like that they want to use. And he was like, maybe I'm saying more than I should. And I was like, but keep saying it.
Yeah, keep talking.
So I think, like, in these projects, like, they make concept art when they're working on this stuff. There's like, I don't know if they have scripts or whatever, but I'm sure there's designs and ideas and stuff, and maybe that gets out there. And Xolo has been pretty open about being interested in playing Nova. Like, before Blue Beetle even came out, he was talking about this for a while. So I think maybe, like, it's just an idea. And maybe it is legit, but we've seen these production sheets before. Sometimes they're on it. But oftentimes it's so early, it's just like ideas get out there and they're not real.
So can we talk about this production listing? Because I looked at it and I realized I don't know how to judge the certainty of this. Do we know what the FTIA is? What are these production listings? Are they photoshopped by someone, or is this just like someone wants this to happen, so they just log it somewhere?
What I found interesting is that it was the website. Like, it was like a production listing website, and I didn't go explore the rest of the site and dig into it beyond that. But it was like not like this just photo circulating. It was a site you click into, and I assume there's other production listings on there. And this looked like very similar to production listings that have leaked in the past that have been legit. But oftentimes I think they have more information than this one had on it. Like, they'll have you producer. It said Kevin Feige.
It said Kevin Feige producer, and then.
But also, like, it would say Brad Winderbaum and other people, because there would be other producers on it too. It wouldn't just be a Kevin Feige production.
You'd see a list of a lot of Marvel execs on it.
Marvel has a lot of executives on projects now. Like, people who started just in the Marvel bullpen creatively behind the scenes, like, they have a lot of them have graduated to executive producer role. Like, who did I interview for Echo? Was it Richie Palmer? I mean, he was like, when I exited, he was like, you didn't ask me about Nova. And I was like, I didn't think you were the guy to ask. So there's a lot of people behind the scenes who become producers and become very embedded in all of the projects, because you have to be, because it's a puzzle. Like, each piece has to fit the MCU puzzle. So all these people have to be talking and producing together. So it would be more than Feige, I think, listed on there. But I'm not in production, so I can't say I know this for fact.
Yeah.
But just based on how many times we've seen things like this, you've seen fake ones, and this one could have been.
It has the scent of a too good to be true type posting.
It's too soon.
It's way too soon, and like, too soon for what their timeline was, for what the scale of the show would have to be, for other projects they have in the pipeline before that. And
that's my thing too.
Yeah, like, there's so much else they're doing. To see something that would start shooting this soon, like, just feels a little rushed. Now, a lot of times you'll see a U.S. Copyright Office stuff, and people get FOIA requests for that, and that I trust, because often what you'll see is just maybe one actor listed. You don't get like a whole cast listing generally, because those deals are still up in the air.
Yeah.
Like, a lot of times for a TV show, you're not going to get a confirmed casting until a month before production, because their agents are hounds who are going after Marvel and having all kinds of negotiations. You got to imagine Glenn Close and John C. Reilly's agents this far out are not going to be like, yes, it's confirmed. Up until the last minute, they're going to be negotiating their involvement with these shows.
It would have made it to deadline by now.
Yeah, for sure.
If all those people, these are not small names. These are big name actors. These are people who have been part of Marvel, part of DC, part of different big titles. They all have look at the combined careers of the people on that production listing. You know, the deadlines, the Hollywood Reporters, these trades, the Wrap, you know, they would have had something by now. I find it hard to believe that it's true, just because keeping those secrets for that many people to have just been leaked by a production listing, it is almost too good to be true. And also, because you mentioned, where does it fit, like, in the projects they have coming, where does a Nova series fit between now and Doomsday and Secret Wars?
Yeah.
I mean, I would love to see Rich Rider in Secret Wars. And the production listing, I think it said it was after the Annihilation Wave.
Oh.
What?
When would that have happened?
Yeah, that's the biggest thing to me. It's just you have Nova's origin story already written in the MCU.
Right.
You could put Thanos in a trailer if you do it right, and I'm in there.
Right.
Thanos sells tickets. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
If you are doing a Disney Plus show and you open it with the destruction of Xandar, you show us how Thanos got the Power Stone and how Richard Rider was the sole survivor, therefore getting all the power of the Nova Corps. Glenn Close is now not even in there. She might be in that first episode, but then becomes the voice of the world mind.
Disembodied voice of
yes,
the world
which
mind.
they were gonna do for Infinity War.
That's right. That was Marcus McFeely said they were going to do that. Yeah.
They were gonna have sort of that Avengers versus
Silver
X-Men comic.
Surfer crashes into
AVX opened with Sam Alexander crashing into
yeah.
Earth and warning everybody about the Phoenix Force. So they had considered doing something like that with Nova, but then it was just like, we have too many characters. How do we introduce this new? Which I would have loved it, but I think most people would be like, who the hell is Nova?
Yeah.
Like if we live in this bubble, we talk about this all day. Where we love comics and characters and talking about these things. We all know Nova.
Yeah, I think what I had heard is that, like, so in Infinity Gauntlet, it's Silver Surfer who crashes into the Sanctum Sanctorum. They swapped in Hulk, coming back from the events of Ragnarok. So I think one of their ideas was Richard Rider was going to be
kind of a combination of those two. Yeah, that would make sense. But yeah, they obviously scrapped it. But Nova has been like this close.
We've been
so many times,
and we've been begging to see Xandar. Like Xandar, none of the Guardians movies have gone to Xandar.
The closest thing I've got is Epcot. Okay,
Right.
I go to Epcot. I get to go back to Xandar, and that's it. That's it. But I'll go. I went.
Or a What If episode or something like that.
Yeah.
So we are still 3 or 5 years away. Brad told you about it'd have to be a Star Trek, because I think you asked Brad, how do you do a space set show within the budget you would have to do? Could this work? Like, what would it look like in terms of Battlestar Galactica, Star Trek? Would this live up to what we would want to see from a Rich Rider Nova series?
I know I just said don't compare Penguin and Agatha, but if you look just eyeballs only on Penguin and Agatha, the production on Max, their House of the Dragon stuff, their just everything Max does looks incredibly, like, it looks insane. The sets on Loki were amazing. But for the most part, I think Max is winning the production design battle.
The production design, the VFX artistry, with the exception of some of the lighting in some of the episodes of House of the Dragon, which is a whole different thing.
Yes.
But yeah, the look of the dragons has been incredible, and I've seen episode 3 of Penguin that's coming out this Sunday, and there are things in that episode to where it just looks like...
the first scene of this episode.
Yep, it is frightening how good it looks. Like, it is so good, and I'm like, whoa. So, yeah, I don't want to spoil it, but...
Yeah, but that in mind, the Marvel stuff, it's not that it looks bad. It doesn't, like, a couple things have looked lackluster. But I just think, like, it's hard to imagine how expensive it would be to make Cosmic Marvel for television look that good, given how things that were less cosmic, that seemed more attainable, not looking great. So I would really hope that they... I don't know. I mean, I also think Marvel TV had to learn. Like, they dove in to the deep end in 2021, and they were like, 5 shows? Was it 5 shows in the first year of Marvel television? Or did Marvel Studios before they were? WandaVision, Loki, What If, Hawkeye, and Falcon and Winter Soldier in the first year, with 4 movies in the same year.
Yeah.
So now that they're thinning it, the whole production's down a bit, and the number of productions, hopefully that means they can be a bit more concentrated, because Cosmic can look good. We've seen it look great. Like, Guardians of the Galaxy looks really cool. It doesn't have that same tangible realness, I think, that we see from stuff on Max. Like, House of the Dragon seems like you could step into that world and the texture is there. Marvel is a bit more of like our world, and then it gets like the cosmic stuff isn't intended, I think, to look realistic. It's just to be immersive in a different world. So they could do it. Will they? I hope so. It's hard to say.
Do you have to get a Favreau in there? Because on The Mandalorian, on Ahsoka,
stuff,
they've made Cosmic look great on Disney+. Even the Acolyte finale, whatever your thoughts on the Acolyte, that finale where Soul is chasing her through the rings, the icy, rocky rings of that planet of Brendok, it looks incredible.
Yeah.
It looks so good. And I'm like, I know Lucasfilm has in-house artists. Yeah. They have a different way of doing it than Marvel does. But I feel like Marvel, what they need to do a Nova series right is to invest in a in-house VFX department of workers that you treat correctly, that you give benefits to, let them take their families to Disneyland with a silver pass. Like, the problem is that, like, Marvel has just created this like bake-off environment with VFX studios, and they've worked with great companies like at Frame Store and at Weta Digital Domain, all these different companies that do great stuff, and like they have to compete with each other, and they work long hours to keep those contracts. But if Marvel were to just have people who were Marvel Studios or Disney employees, then they could keep it all in-house. They wouldn't have to worry about secrecy because these people as Disney employees would be more protective of their jobs. I think you'd have to do that.
Doing it in-house, that's a really good idea. As far as I know and how production goes, it sounds like a really good idea. I think they'd benefit from it. And also the fact that they're doing less projects, the deadlines hopefully will be a little bit less tight. So like I think Fantastic Four is going to be a test of that.
Yeah.
Because that's going to be a fully built VFX world, which I assume has already been built. That's why they're probably confident they're going to hit that May release date, because probably most of that world is computerized. You just got to capture the actors on what is probably mostly motion capture sets. Because they were able to continue working VFX-wise through the strike. So maybe now that they have less total things being produced, the VFX teams will be spread a little bit less thin and be able to nail it. Look at Thanos. Look what Weta did with Thanos.
I know. They've done it before. They have broken ground. I mean, just the Hulk design for the 2012 Avengers movie made so much possible.
Holds up today. It's been 12
Still
years.
holds
Hard
up.
to believe it.
Still looks good.
Can't believe it's already been 12 years since Avengers.
Evan has a question.
Yeah, can I ask you guys some Nova questions from the audience?
Let's do it.
No, I don't talk about Nova.
Great, lots of people asking, like Grape Dog Moody on Twitch and Ryan Anderson on YouTube, asking, do you think the show will use Richard Rider or Sam Alexander, and which version would be more appealing to the series format?
Feige and Wonderbaum have both told me Richard Rider. I like an idea. I know this will piss off comics purists. I'm okay with Tony Stark essentially being Uncle Ben because we've seen Uncle Ben twice before it. If we had it, that's one thing. But I'm okay with the idea of combining the stories a bit and having Richard Rider be the long lost dad of Sam Alexander. And if you introduce Richard Rider first, and then later we meet Sam, and he's like, I'm missing my dad or something. He's introduced in a different show. Maybe it's some sort of Champions on Disney Plus, which I think would be a really cool team up. And then like finds the helmet, and then you're like, oh, that other series I saw. This people who don't know who Sam Alexander would be like, oh, that. Why is the helmet black though? But something like that would be cool. But I think they're going to do Rich Rider, especially if they're coming out as Xandar, which, like I said, they did that origin story already. It's
right
different.
there.
It wasn't a nihilist. But Thanos destroyed Xandar.
It works just the same. I agree. I think Rich Rider is going to be the way they go and the way they should go. But that doesn't mean like Sam Alexander can't be part of it. Maybe at the end of season 1, kind of like as a two-hander or to set up a second season. But Rich.
You guys were saying that this casting thing probably not true, still 3 to 5 years out. Eli Finelli asking, can we assume Nova and any other new characters introduced will stick around past Secret Wars? Do we think they try to get this out before Secret Wars, or, how do you feel about that?
I mean, Secret Wars is still kind of 3 years away, right?
There's no way.
But I don't think they could get it out before that.
Yeah.
I just think it's a problem.
Do they pull a Captain Marvel? They do an intro in a movie, or like a tease, and then show something else.
As a Nova lover, I would just love to see Nova, but as somebody who thought it was a little cheap to have Captain Marvel be the one save the day after not being part of 90% of the Infinity Saga, I can't say that I would support it with Nova after I wasn't a huge fan of the Avengers depending on her suddenly showing up and saving them. It was fine. It was fine. I didn't hate it, but it was like, oh yeah, she was introduced like a movie ago, and now she's the big she came in and saved the day. I wouldn't want Nova to get that treatment either. I'd like Nova to be integrated. Same way I want to see Shang-Chi interact with these characters. I want to see these why has Miss Marvel not met anybody yet? I would like to I think that one of the biggest mistakes has been not having all the new characters meet to culminate Phase 4, because Shang-Chi met Carol and Bruce, but
it felt these piecemeal little chunks of scenes that didn't really tell us anything.
Yelena met Kate, which was really cool.
Kate met Kamala in the...
there was some meetings, but they haven't teamed up, so we don't have anything close to the Tony-Steve relationship.
Right.
So I would really like to see all the characters develop those relationships somehow before Secret Wars. So throw Nova in there, it would be kind of quick.
Here's a question, though. If we delay Nova till after Secret Wars, make Nova, say, a Mutant Saga friend or something, he's introduced when we meet New Mutants, would starting with the destruction of Xandar still matter at that point? Will people will remember it, but will be, I imagine, after an incursion-based 616 reboot at that point. So will the events of the Infinity Saga matter as much to Nova's origin story?
It'll be a long time since it happened. And it'll feel like even longer because it'll be more projects have
potentially
happened.
10 years with
Yeah.
2 huge Avengers movies in between.
It's hard to imagine them doing Nova on Disney Plus before Secret Wars and not including him in Secret Wars. But like you just pointed out, I hadn't thought of it that way. If you do it after Secret Wars, you have now written out the perfect opening for the character.
Yeah. Does Disney Plus exist in 3 to 5 years? Right, the way things are going.
Yeah.
Are we gonna? Is it gonna be like ESPN Pair Up Max? Like, are these things all gonna merge and retitle from acquisitions and weird shit that's gonna happen?
What would we call that if they did it? Just like, if they're cable?
Yes. If they could bundle these things in these packages.
I might go get a TiVo and try to start watching them on my time.
Yes.
If they call it cable, they'll probably give Josh Brolin his own show, right? Bring him back one more time. Yeah.
Watch cable on cable.
Cable on cable.
Flagship show right there.
There we go.
Yeah, lots of people saying the same thing. Like, is it going to be too far away? Like, Obi-Wan Kenobi even saying, like, could we see Thanos' attack on Xandar if or when we get a Nova show? Could be really cool, I think. And also, in that vein, like on what the show will do, kind of before we move on, I would love this thought from Ryan Reflects on YouTube. Do you think the Lantern series at DC will in a way affect how Marvel will do the Nova series? Lanterns is going to take place on Earth, but,
Yeah, and I'm hearing word on the street that Lanterns might not be as cosmic of a story, might not feature Kyle Chandler using the ring powers as much, which seems crazy to me, but it seems like a budgetary thing. They're waiting to see how James Gunn's Superman movie does before Warner decides to properly fund these shows. That's just what I'm hearing. I think it's going to be more of like a mystery thing, whereas Nova is going to be more of like a space cop or fireman, or he solves problems. What I think Marvel needs to do, you could do a Nova one shot or a Nova special presentation before committing to a full Nova series. What if you just, as a proof of concept, threw $15 to $20 million at someone to just do a like 45 minutes to hour long Nova special presentation that just shows the events of Xandar and just shows his escape from Xandar? Like, that would get a ton of people's eyes and would introduce the character of Nova, and we would be wondering where he is all this time and demanding it. It would allow word of mouth to grow, demanding this character to show up on a series, rather than force people to go to YouTube to figure out who Nova is.
Right. Yeah. Wow. That's what.
Yeah. Well, it's not like we'll complain about that. We'll happily oblige. But
I mean, if you like, I think it was an Abnett comic where it was like after Xandar, he meets up with like Drax and Gamora, and they both all get like possessed and fall in love and all that stuff. Like, I know Zoe's done with the MCU, but like that idea of where has he been? I mean, because I felt that way whether it was the Eternals or Captain Marvel or anything like that they tried to say already existed, but we did like that. I thought one thing the Marvels did really well was explain why Carol didn't come to Earth. Yeah, and it was very subtle. Like it was on paper it was like I thought the Marvels was okay. I thought it was fine. But I thought that story could have been exploited to even more to make Carol so much more vulnerable and like show that side of her and make her even more complex. Because that was one of my favorite parts about that movie was her getting over that guilt of like what happened and why she never went. So you'd have to find a really good way to explain why Nova never went back to Earth, why Richard Rider never felt the need to go back to Earth. But you could do it, I guess. I mean, the Marvels did it. So Eternals. I don't know if I agree with that explanation. We weren't supposed to. We did a lot of times, but we weren't supposed to. I didn't
buy that for Eternals.
Yeah.
I would have loved like just one scene in the Marvels that just showed Carol the moment she destroys the Kree Supreme Intelligence, and she just hears the screams of every philosopher and political leader and historian and thought leader over thousands of years of Kree existence, and just screaming like, "Ow! I feel everything! You're ripping my brain out of my skull! Why? Because they're all still plugged into that AI. Like, that's what links them to their own history. That would have been. And she's arguably a war criminal for doing that.
Yeah, like I guess I get. Like that's the thing is that like that on paper makes that character. Like I enjoy when heroes have a little bit of that gray. Like things are dealing with things. Like Tony Stark, man, come on, he's my favorite live action MCU character, but he's made a lot of mistakes. Yeah, he's operated in some morally dubious ways. Like the I mean, look at how he made his money, So it's like, and then overcoming that, and like, now his arc was he became a good dude and a father and all this stuff, and laid it all down the line like Captain America said he never would. So I think when you have those sort of gray areas, like what Carol did to get her revenge, essentially, well, it cost a lot of people who weren't involved.
Right.
So
a lot of good Kree out there, just trying to live their
I mean,
lives.
they're just chilling. Like maybe they don't agree with the government. It's
and trying to like go to a lot of kids in school just trying to like read up on the classics of Kree history, and now they have no records, and they just have to look at their dying star every day. Well,
damn it, Carol.
Damn it, Carol. Well, we talked about Fantastic Four. We're talking about these other titles, and I wanted to ask you. You seem to be just like really up to date on what these creatives working at Marvel Studios are actually doing, like what their priorities are. And Marvel, over the past couple of years, has had a bit of a slower year. Deadpool and Wolverine was obviously a huge success. Loki has been an incredible success. Agatha All Along seems very fun and has like energized a whole part of the fan base. But like 2025 is where Marvel really needs to reassure everyone that they know what they're doing. And there's some mixed feelings about Captain America: Brave New World. Some mixed feelings about Thunderbolts. I'm excited for both of those movies, but they really are saying that Fantastic Four is the movie where, like, if they can't get that right, you better run for the hills. I wanted to ask you, I want to hear your thoughts, Brandon, on what of these titles and other streaming shows that might come out, Daredevil Born Again, Ironheart, what things do you think Marvel needs to do as it starts to get back into gear next year?
First, we'll just make good stuff. That's the first and
What?
foremost. Just
Hold
make
on.
it really
Hold
good.
on.
Like, come on.
Wait a minute.
Like,
This is
I don't, what they used
groundbreaking.
to somebody used to pay me for these takes. Did you know that?
So, I mean, you're not wrong. And I think
But no, I mean, like,
everyone wants good stuff, but like weirdly, quantity has been a priority over quality.
right, and that's been like that. I think that it's interesting because you look at the Disney leadership, and you had Bob Iger at the helm until 2020. Bob Chapek took over, and it was 5 shows and 4 movies, like we just talked about. And you have heard the stories. Kevin Feige was spread too thin. He couldn't, come do the Kevin Feige polish here, and things like that they were doing. And I think, it gives Feige and the people who need to be involved and stick their fingers in each pot more of a chance to do that. But also, I'm a big wrestling fan. So one thing that WWE, especially recently, since new leadership, good leadership came into WWE, but Triple H has been the creative guy. Shawn Michaels has been the creative guy in WWE, and not only are they giving their wrestlers opportunities to have lives outside of wrestling because they understand it a bit more, but one thing wrestling is doing really well is listening to the audience. They're telling stories slowly. They're letting the audience react. Like WrestleMania last year is the perfect example. They wanted it to be The Rock versus Roman Reigns. That was the plan at WWE. That's what they were doing. And the crowd said no. We want Cody. Like, it was a hashtag. And they were like, oh, that was not the plan. They were going to do Rock versus Roman. And then they heard people and they pivoted and they said, let's get Cody back in there. So I think because they had the time to do it, they were able to do it. Now Marvel, again, like if you look at the early phases, they were doing that wrestling style of storytelling, listening to the audience. They made Iron Man. It worked. Let's make Iron Man 2. And then they were able to take what worked and have time to apply it to the next project. Whereas in 2021 and 2022, I know it was under Chapek's leadership. It's kind of, I'm not really exactly sure. Like some people say Iger was the one who left and said make
never
everything.
Really left. He still had the CEO office.
So yeah, he's like the guy who left during he left during the pandemic. Things got hard, and he got to come back and look like the hero. I get that.
Right.
But so I don't know whose policy it was for quantity to be the priority. I think Disney Plus demanded that, and Iger was the one who started the Disney Plus plans. But now that he's back, whether it's him or if it's Feige or whoever is calling the shots, slowing down the output allows them to do what the Infinity Saga did and what like wrestling is doing, and reacts to what the audience is liking and not liking. Like if people like something and they respond, and we're talking about it here, if it's trending on Twitter, if it's selling tickets, if there's people watching it, they're going to do more of that. If people aren't liking something, if critics are saying this sucks or fans are saying we don't like this, that gives them an opportunity to do less of that. And they didn't have the opportunity to do that when everything was releasing on top of itself. You couldn't change things based on audience reaction. I don't think they knew exactly where they were going in the Infinity Saga the whole time. They knew Thanos at some point was going to come in and do this and that, but they were able to build that along the way, and it paid off really well, based on what people liked. So hopefully the space between is going to allow them to hear the fans, hear the critics. Some of the fans are bullshit. Sorry. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. Well, yeah, I think we should talk about that, because like, how do you tell someone who's a ride or die for Moon Knight or a ride or die for Miss Marvel that like their shows don't deserve a second season, when realistically, numerically, the numbers might not be there for those shows in comparison to a show like, I don't know, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier or Loki.
Right.
I just feel like every show is gonna have their ride or dies now.
Yeah, and that's the hard part. I don't know how they make those decisions. I'm going to try to talk my way out of this answer.
I don't know either. I don't know how to do it.
Because, but then like you have the Marvels, which was good. Like I think the Marvels was fine. Like it's not another one of those that's not my favorite movie. I think it's so overhated for reasons of like, yes, it's a diverse movie. There's women in it, and there's people who just are gonna be mean about that. They're gonna be gross about that. And you look at, I don't know if that's one of the movies. I assume it is. I don't remember, but I assume that's one of the movies that got review bombed by fans on Rotten Tomatoes for no good reason. The movie's fine. Like, come on, don't hate the Marvels. But there are people who are just going to go out there and say, oh, they wanted to throw women in a movie, all this other crap that they say that's just not true. Like, they made a superhero movie with women in it. Why do you, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think, like, it's a shame because those titles obviously get the most, like, vitriol thrown at them. So it's hard, like, you have to take that out when you consider making another one. But also the movie didn't perform well. But it was a product of the strikes, too. Like, there was a number of factors.
You couldn't get Iman Vellani out there to promote it. I guarantee you, if Iman Vellani's able to go on a press tour for that movie makes another $100 million.
Yes, like, I don't think that movie
She's just so charming in interviews. She's so magnetic and funny, and there would have been a whole other audience.
It was never Deadpool and Wolverine. It was never $1 billion movie. It was never even the first Captain Marvel. Like, it wasn't going to make $1 billion. Captain Marvel came out at the perfect time. I mean, Ant-Man and the Wasp was the biggest Ant-Man movie because it came out in between those movies, in between Infinity War and Endgame. Like, that was a big booster for it. So I think it's undeniable the movies that came out between Infinity War and Endgame got a little bit of a boost for being in that peak Marvel ticket sale era. But the Marvels was, like, clearly hurt by the vitriol about the film, the lack of ability to do PR campaigns, and things like that. So I don't know, I'm sure they have way more analytics and ways to figure it out. Captain Marvel sells a lot of toys.
Yeah.
Like, people love Captain Marvel. They love Carol. It's just also, unfortunately, because we're on Twitter so much, we see negative sides that I think are overly negative.
Yeah. I think Kevin Feige, I'm encouraged by seeing him declare that Fantastic Four is what he's most excited for next year.
Yeah.
Because to me, it shows some honesty to the fan base of what his priorities are.
Yeah.
And I think the studio needs to just make some decisions and not try to be the solution to every fan's wants, dreams, and needs. Because I think in the past, they're like, we have this glut of characters, let's just greenlight a lot of them and see what sticks. And when you do that, it just kind of confuses the viewers what your narrative priorities are.
Yeah.
I like to hear James Gunn starting off Gods of Monsters phase of DC with just a Superman movie. Let's get Superman right. Kevin Feige seems to be doing the same thing. Let's get Fantastic Four right, and then see if we can figure out what's beyond that. I think in the past, saying yes to everything means that, like, you set an expectation to viewers of, when am I going to get my show for my character that I love?
Yeah.
And when you do that, it's like, well, Marvel is not... I just don't trust the Disney Corporation or Marvel Studios to be the answer to society of, like, what needs to be reflected in media. I want to watch different studios do that. You know, I think Disney has other commercial agendas, and just, like, stick to what you know, because if you try to do something else, I think people call bullshit on it.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, also, like, look at the first Secret Wars comic, like, why that was made. It was literally to sell toys.
Yeah.
It was, let's get every character in one book. It turned out to be a, good book, but it's like, the commercial agendas are ultimately just tell a good story. Like, and I think they're doing that with Fantastic Four.
I think they are, but we're also going to get these two other movies before that I think will be fine.
Yeah.
They might be great. Thunderbolts might be really good.
I think those trailers have been fantastic. Yeah. Like, the Cap 4 trailers, I really enjoyed. The Thunderbolts teaser that just dropped was awesome. And the Fantastic Four footage at San Diego and D23 was really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Fantastic Four was my favorite thing that I saw at D23.
Really?
I've watched your video at the Hollywood Bowl, just recording Giacchino's score, and I think it is like one of the most important scores to get right. I think not since, I'm trying to think, because Silvestri did the Avengers theme, there was the Tim Burton Batman, Danny Elfman did the score for that. But I would say not since Howard Shore getting assigned Lord of the Rings was a composer having to come up with an iconic sonic experience so important to the title. John Williams, I think, is rightfully appreciated. A lot of the movies that he scored would not have been as iconic without his music. None of his movies would have been as iconic. But fantastic. Like, I think Silvestri's Avengers theme is just okay.
Really?
I would say it's like a B. Silvestri's Back to the Future, platinum class, A+, one for the ages. And I think Avengers, he was just kind of trying to do like some session music. I don't think he knew how big Avengers was going to be.
Yeah,
I think he's obviously a talented musician, but like a lot of people, if you were to, I think Tony Zhao did a story about this back when MC was in Phase 3, early Phase 3. He's like, what is the music of the MCU? And they would ask, do Man on the Street bit, and people are like, it's dun 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 dun, and they couldn't off the top of their heads remember what the Captain America theme was, what the Avengers theme was. I think you and I know the Avengers theme, but a lot of people just don't. It's not as iconic. I think this Fantastic Four thing is going to stick in people's heads. Just the dun 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 dun, and then Fantastic Four. Like, people are going to be coming out of that theater just slapping their knees to that song. Like, it's going to be. Like, I think Guardians of the Galaxy was such a great musical experience just because of a great soundtrack.
Yes, yeah.
And I think we have forgotten in the MCU how important a great score can be. I guess Ludwig Göransson's work for Black Panther was really good. But, like, the Black Panther theme, like, when I think of it, it's like, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, like that kind of, like the horns. But really, I think of, like, the musical variety they had. They had the flute, the drums for,
but Giacchino has done some of the MCU's best work already too.
Okay,
with Spider-Man.
I'm forgetting Giacchino's Spider-Man and Giacchino's Marvel Suite.
He did Doctor Strange as well.
He did the Doctor Strange, but every time we see the Marvel Studios title card, that music is Giacchino's music. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Giacchino is sort of the next John Williams. Yeah. And I say that as somebody who loves Junkie XL and Hans Zimmer and Ludwig Göransson, like the Mandalorian thing. Come on. Mad Max, like or what Junkie XL did there, and I love Hans. Yeah, but
is Giacchino just ranking? Is Giacchino the best just from Lost to Doctor Strange to Ratatouille and Up, and like everything he's done at Pixar, everything he did with Lost, the Star Trek movies with J.J. Abrams, and then the Marvel work,
and he did Rogue One.
Is he our best? He did the Batman.
It's him, to me, it's him or Hans Zimmer.
Well, Zimmer now. I love Hans Zimmer, but he now has his studio of talented musicians, and he clearly just assigns it to other
Interstellar.
people. Interstellar was great.
Interstellar
is Interstellar Hans Zimmer's best? I think
it's probably my favorite. I mean,
it's great, right?
I listen to it on vinyl almost every morning. That's like how I start my day. I put Interstellar on vinyl, and I make my breakfast smoothie with that playing.
Wow. I would say between it's got to be Ludwig Göransson or Giacchino, I think, are like most aggressively talented composers.
Göransson's amazing, man. Yeah,
his Oppenheimer score was freaking incredible. The Tenet score is still really good. I think about the Tenet music all the time.
Ramin Djawadi.
Ramin Djawadi's really good, just for everything he's done on HBO series. Very, very good. And the Westworld soundtrack is awesome.
I'm talking to Giacchino this week.
Tell him I say thank you for everything, for scoring my life. When I drove out from Jacksonville to LA back in 2010, when I was moving, I just put on the Lost soundtrack, and I was sobbing driving down I-10, just listening to Life and Death. And
I'm telling you, play Win One for the Reaper at my funeral.
Okay.
That's like it. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Do we have a few minutes for some other audience questions? Yeah? Okay. Just some shout outs for people on YouTube, some super chats here. Mr. Crappenshits, hey, it's a YouTube username, saying long-time viewer for a super chat, great show, hey, thanks.
He's wanting his name read.
That's it.
Jeremiah Torres saying, do y'all think Agatha will be in Secret Wars?
No, I just don't think. I think they're going to have too many other bigger casting priorities.
If she is, it's like going to be a moment where they're like, this is some sort of magic we can't understand. I know someone who can. Cut over to Agatha. But like, I also 100%. Don't know if Agatha has reached that level of mainstream to be like, because that movie, I also don't think Secret Wars is going to be one movie. So if it's spread out, maybe there's more room. But like that's already going to be a very crowded movie, prioritizing Avengers and X-Men, I think.
Do you think there's got to be someone at Marvel Studios executive or maybe even Disney corporate who's like, well, we put a Disney Plus star in a movie referring to the Marvels and being like, and the Marvels underperformed. Like there's some old time Hollywood execs who see TV stars and they see movie stars. And just they see Catherine Hahn as, unfortunately, they might just see her as a TV star. Yeah. I think she's a bigger star than just TV.
I think so too.
I think she can do. We've seen her in films before, but yeah, I don't know if she makes that jump.
Speaking of mutants, S Castle on YouTube asking, how would you want to see mutants? The raccoons outside, man.
Raccoons
they're
clawing their way in.
S Castle asking, how would you want to see mutants be introduced into the MCU? Like, will there be a mutant school already, or something else?
Ooh.
Well, we have some mutants already existing between Kamala Khan and Namor in the MCU. I think it has to be on the other side of a reality warp at this point for it to just feel like... I think the biggest issue with introducing the mutants in the MCU is something that I've referred to as the Magneto problem. Magneto has to be an active threat to mutant kind and to humankind, really. As the leader of the Mutant Brotherhood, you need to have a good Magneto in any universe that has X-Men in it. But for it to be a good Magneto, he has to be a Holocaust survivor. So you can't get too far in the future where he'd have to be like 90 years old, and you can't give him a different 20th century war crime as part of its origin. It's just not going to feel the same. The Holocaust was a singular event. Hopefully, never we see anything like that ever again in our lifetimes or ever in human history. But like, it's just a third rail to erase someone's Holocaust origin story and replace it with something else. So, you're just gonna piss off so many people. So you have to make him from another universe. You have to have like a reality warp that kind of resets the MCU with some elements of the 616, some elements of other universes, and say like, okay, now in this history, this Eric Lyncher was a Holocaust survivor, and then mutants have existed since like throughout the decades of the 20th century.
Yeah, I mean, as we just get further away in a timeline from the Holocaust, it's hard to, he's going to be old. How old can he be to...
I think in the present year where the mutant saga would happen, if they don't do this, it would be like 2032.
Right, and so
be 100 years old.
Yeah, like I don't know how that works. But I don't think we're going to see all that until after Secret Wars anyway. I really think Secret Wars is everyone's back. Yeah. I think the original. I think it's a version of Avengers versus X-Men. The fact, like, I love Downey, but the fact that they didn't pivot Kang Dynasty into Avengers versus X-Men, where it's just bring back all the OGs from each as best you can, and the amount of tickets that would sell is kind of mind-boggling to me. They must be really confident in Doom and stuff. But I really think Secret Wars is going to be some version of everybody's back for one movie, and then when the dust settles, it'll be a New Earth single timeline, and in that timeline is where the school will exist, to answer the question. I think the school will exist. Charles, Eric, and all the mutant and the X-Men will already be there.
Baxter Building and Avengers Tower. And
it's all going to be in one, and I think it's going to be like what James Gunn's doing. Like, the DC Universe is fully formed. Like, they're all out there. Yeah. So I think post-Secret Wars, we will just have a Marvel Universe that is fully lived in. You might get a couple origin stories along the way, but I think I think everybody's going to be there, and it's just, here's the reset. Some are here, some are staying. X-Men are pretty much all new. Yeah. But like, Tilly's 90, right? Is Hugh Jackman like not going to be part of that? Be like, I don't know. We'll see.
I think he's in Secret Wars, but I think that's going to be
that's got to be it for all of them. Yeah, I think so.
Thanora Ravindra on YouTube saying, import Michael Fassbender, problem solved. And Lewis Cox saying, I would have liked a Nova movie more than a Nova series. Very interesting thought.
Yeah.
Ryan Reflects, Carl, Aaron Magula, and I'm sure lots of other people today asking about Young Avengers in general. Brandon, we talk about it a lot. Do you think we get a Young Avengers movie or project? And also, to spin off that, do you think we get a Midnight Suns movie or project?
Midnight Suns, I mean, that would be cool. Like, I would listen. Young Avengers seemed like if you're going to do a Disney Plus culmination, like, Young Avengers would be like, this is the young people show. Yeah. Because I thought Disney Plus was going to target young people, but then we got Werewolf by Night, and Agatha's a little edgy, and like
Agatha's like made for like the Buffy charmed millennial generation.
So it's not like you have to be like a kid to watch the Disney Plus. I mean, Loki had some darker, like, not scary, but like it wasn't exactly light. So I Disney Plus has kind of exceeded my expectations in the willingness to make stuff that's a little bit more mature. It's not really. I think Midnight Suns has to be pretty dark.
Yeah.
Young Avengers, I felt like would have been like, okay, we can put Miss Marvel and Kate Bishop's Hawkeye and all these young characters that have been Yelena and maybe Peter. I don't know what the rights are to Spider-Man on TV. I think they'd have to work that out. I know animated they can do, but I think live action's just like the movies. They can't use them. But you could have just took all the young characters, put them on a Young Avengers series, and made it an event on Disney Plus, which would have been awesome. But at this point, I don't think we're getting Young Avengers in the next 5 years.
Because when would they do it? And would it be Young Avengers or would it be Champions? Because if we're thinking of like team-ups of young Marvel superheroes, I think most
Champions
people would prefer Champions to Young Avengers.
Well, the Hulk has a son now, too.
Right. Scar, are we going to bring back that weird haircut guy?
Come on. What happened there?
What happened there? You saw the other concept art designs. They were so much better than what they went with.
Hulk's one of the tragedies of the MCU. That's
what I'm saying. On the other side of this reality warp, the New Earth MCU, we gotta have like a rightful Hulk. Just spend the money on like.
Make him scary again.
What do you think of this stuff about Amadeus Cho? Have you heard some of the rumors that we might see an Amadeus Cho maybe in? It'd
be cool. I would love him.
Like,
and then you're building champions.
I think he would be a good part.
That would be cool if he's in Cap 4. That'd be really cool. I mean, I haven't heard that at all, but that's. And I've been less active on social media recently, which has been kind of peaceful.
Yeah.
But
must be nice.
Yeah.
Let's be nice. Man. Yeah, I don't need an Amadeus Cho in Captain America: Brave New World. It kind of sounds like we're just putting in more glup shittos in there. But announce him and announce like a champions cast. And then bring back some of these younger Marvel heroes.
Well, if he's just in a scene? Yeah. He doesn't have to be a supporting character. It could just be one of those where he meets somebody and that could be, to me, could be fun. I feel like that's the stuff the MCU used to do. Used to be, that would be an Easter egg, right? Then you get to come on here and say, let's tell everybody who Amadeus Cho is, because most people aren't going to know.
He's just someone working for Stark Enterprises. Or Stark Industries, and he's just some whiz kid who's just
he's
running all their security. Yeah. He's like the guy in Tomorrow Never Dies who played Nightcrawler, and he's just you know what I'm talking about. He's running ICBMs in and out.
Yeah, so I think most moviegoers won't know, but the people who are chronically online and fans of the stuff will all know. But then it's an opportunity to start that conversation and build the excitement again.
Yeah, Alan Cumming is what I'm saying. Yes, he played Nightcrawler. And before that, he was in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion and played a handsome billionaire. That's such a weird movie from the 90s. Yes.
As we kind of wrap it up here, I want to wrap on 2 Twitch questions and also thank some people on Twitch. Of course, Kobe-Wan Kenobi and Christian Unpronounceable, as always, for giving out gift subs. Rosso Games, Rough Landing Tony, Lady Ashley, and Hermes Wormies, and of course, Basil Barrel Spinner. Thank you for the 40 gift subs today. Thank you always for tuning in and dropping in. So the 2 questions I have from Twitch that I think go hand in hand. Kamina Koi saying, do you think they're setting up post-Secret Wars to get back into more grounded Marvel stories? And also kind of off that, Shri is asking, do we think we get, if you have one pitch for a special presentation, what would it be? And would it be something that's more grounded? Would it be something that's more out there?
I want a Ghost Rider special presentation.
Oh, yeah, that'd be cool.
Because, you got Mephisto in there. I don't know if you can afford a full Ghost Rider series, 6 to 8 episodes of the Flaming Skull special effect, but you can afford, a couple shots and a 45-minute special presentation just to introduce his origin story for a future Midnight Suns team-up. That's the one I want to see. That doesn't sound like it's anywhere. Although, didn't Brad Winderbaum say maybe a Ghost Rider special presentation, or am I making that up?
I think he might have said something like that to Joe Deckelmeyer.
Yeah.
From Screen Rant.
Yeah. I saw that and I was like, yes, please. Nom, 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 nom.
Oh, God. A Ghost Rider. Man, I'm not going to have an answer better than that because Ghost Rider would be the perfect special presentation. Adam Warlock, for existing characters, to go with one we've already met, I'd like to see more Adam Warlock. Adam Warlock had some cool stories where he teamed up with Thanos in the comics, but Thanos is not there anymore, so I don't really. There's a lot of places you could go though. Obviously, I don't think we've seen the last of Adam Warlock. Yeah, but they both were. Well, Guardians was existing, and Werewolf by Night was. Whatever happened to him?
He's still around, hanging out with Man Thing,
just chilling.
They're just there, just
cooking
chilling.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd see a sequel of Werewolf by Night again. Just do it
Yeah.
the Werewolf by Night 2 special presentation.
I mean, like I would. Thanos just gets the Power Stone. Like that. Just watch Thanos win that battle,
Yes.
and then that sets you up for your Nova series.
The Fall of Xandar special presentation, right?
It is.
They would have to take it out of like
do
my
it.
cold dead hands to get me to stop watching it.
Well, this has been such an amazing opportunity to chat with you here. Brandon, thank you. And it's been a long time coming, and we're so excited to see what you're working on next. Where can we find you?
You guys, if you could come find me on social media, it's at Brandon Davis BD on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And I've been working on my YouTube channel, which is really fun. I've been kind of like, to be honest, I'm kind of just taking my time, experimenting a bit, seeing what works, having fun with it, and connecting with people on social media. And like I said, I'll have Michael Giacchino and Mick Giacchino on the channel soon.
Mick Giacchino's doing all the music for the Penguin.
Penguin,
right?
like father, son. Michael Giacchino did the Batman. Mick Giacchino's doing the Penguin.
So
How
cool.
cool is that?
Yeah, so
So
cool.
we're gonna talk about stuff like that. And yeah, I'm still going to events and just it's been fun to just kind of feel like I can do whatever I want and say and not worry about anybody so it's been fun. So thank you so much for having me, man. Has been I've wanted to come chat with you and do this and chop it up and have a good time for the longest. So
Yeah, me too. And what's your new? You just passed 25K on YouTube, right?
Yeah, it's growing. It's interesting because like when I first started on YouTube, it was like there was a pop in subscribers because it was like new and exciting, and I can't express how much I appreciate the fact that people went and subscribed. It's surreal. And now it's at a point where it's growing like 100 subscribers a day. And I don't know if I'm gonna keep like for now. Yes, I'm 100% doing it. We'll see at the beginning of next year. I'm working on other projects with some it's kind of mind-boggling some of the people I've been able to talk to about working together, whether they're in outlets, whether they're from studios, whether they're athletes that want to work on it. Like I have been really fortunate to feel like I can take my time and like try some new stuff after 10 years at comic book, which were just a dream. Like the boxes I got to check in life events and experiences while working at comic book and then working at Paramount and stuff were unbelievable. If you told me 10 years ago, told my 22-year-old self the things I would get to do, I would just be like, shut up. So but it's also like it was exhausting. So it's like nice to kind of take a step back, breathe a bit, but we'll see we'll see what happens. It's fun and exciting for now. We'll see.
We're really excited to see what happens. I mean, a lot of us here on other channels and other outlets owe a lot to you because you've just done such amazing work asking like the best questions in these interviews and just getting the best scoops, the fastest gun in Hall H. I believe
Dude,
you identified yourself. So we're just grateful to you, and we're glad that you were able to come chat with us today.
Thank you, man.
So thanks, man. All right, everybody, be sure to subscribe to the Breakroom channel on YouTube. Also, follow us on Twitch, where we'll do lots of videos like this live, and it's a bit easier to have like a nice conversation in the Twitch chat. You know, here on YouTube, sometimes it's like, wow, crazy people are coming in and dogpiling in, and that can be kind of crazy. But yes, follow all 3 channels of the New Rockstars Network, and again, give Brandon a follow where he told you to follow. Thanks, everybody. Laters, gators.